A Tesla Model X backs into a pond, and unfortunately, this turned out to be a tragic situation. How often do these types of incidents happen? Is it the car's fault, the driver's fault? And what's the strange twist on this whole story? Every year in the US, quite a few vehicles end up in the water, and there's a surprising number of fatalities that come out of that. You'd never know it. Very rarely do things that we respond to as firefighters make the news, unless it's some type of high-profile case. And in this case, it involved two things: an electric vehicle and also a billionaire. On February 11th, 2024, billionaire Angela Chao was backing up her Tesla Model X on their private ranch in Texas. Unfortunately, she somehow put her vehicle in reverse instead of drive and ended up in the water. Now, this is a situation that could happen to anyone in any type of vehicle. However, there are some things associated with the Tesla Model X that make it a little bit more possible that the car is at fault in this situation. Number one, there's a lot of user complaints out there about the vehicle not shifting properly when using the shift lever. Shifting a Tesla into drive and reverse and even putting it in park is a little tricky if you're not used to it. In the majority of Tesla's vehicles, it's a small shift lever on the steering column. However, moving forward in Tesla's new vehicles, they're moving the shifting capabilities to the actual touchscreen on the vehicle. The other part of that is the instant torque on these vehicles. When you push down that accelerator pedal, you have power right now. And if you mash that accelerator pedal thinking you're going forward and end up going in reverse, it's going to take some time for you to react to get that vehicle stopped. And in this case, it ended up with a vehicle in the water. There are approximately 10,000 vehicles that end up in the water every year in the US, and that results in about 400 fatalities. That number was a little bit higher than I expected. It's reported that one of the first things she did when she ended up in the water was call a friend for help. And the friend showed up, and one of the friends actually jumped in the water trying to help get her out of that vehicle. And it's a tricky situation because once that vehicle's in the water, you've got a lot of water pressure on the door, making it nearly impossible to open that door. Now, the door would have manual releases if the electronics weren't working, but it would be almost impossible to overcome the pressure pushing on that door holding it shut. I'm going to assume that the vehicle lost all power once it got in the water. That's because the windows were never rolled down. Like most vehicles out there, the windows themselves are electronic. So it doesn't matter if it's an electric vehicle or a combustion engine vehicle, this type of situation is extremely dangerous. This incident happened at a 4,500-acre ranch located just outside of Austin, Texas. It took first responders 24 minutes to arrive on scene. A significant amount of time, but you've got to realize in these remote locations, it takes first responders a long time to get on scene. It's described as being a chaotic scene. First responders, police in the water trying to break the windows. And this is another issue with modern vehicles. Again, not just electric vehicles, but many modern vehicles are starting to use laminated glass on the side windows. Your traditional window punches, rescue tools, they're not going to pop open these windows like they would with the old tempered glass. First responders tried desperately to bust open the glass, but were unsuccessful. When the tow truck arrived on scene, the tow truck didn't have enough cable to actually reach the vehicle. On top of that, there were people on scene that were worried about getting in the water because they were worried about being electrocuted. Because of the way electric vehicles function, because of the way those high voltage batteries operate, they're isolated systems, electrocution is not a hazard when these vehicles are in the water. Now, eventually, they were able to get a longer cable and extension for their tow truck, and they were able to pull that vehicle from the water about 12:36 a.m. Unfortunately, when they pulled Angela from the water, she was unable to be resuscitated. If these types of incidents happen so frequently and we don't hear about them, why are we hearing about this one? Well, it goes back to the high-profile nature of this case. This is a billionaire who happens to be Mitch McConnell's sister-in-law. On top of that, this story involves an electric vehicle. And a lot of times when you see some type of accident, some type of fatality, fire involving an electric vehicle, the media likes to latch onto those stories. Just as I wrapped up this video, new reports were released that showed Angela Chao was actually intoxicated at the time of this incident. Her blood alcohol level was 0.233, which is almost 3 times the legal limit in Texas. Overall, this incident could have happened to anybody in any type of vehicle. The fact that this was an electric vehicle is fairly irrelevant to the outcome. The suspected power loss has very little to do with her being unable to open the doors. Even though there is a manual release, the pressure on that door from the water would make it nearly impossible to open. If you want to learn how to get out of a Tesla, assuming you lose power, click this video right here.